welcome back to the second episode of the Yashica FR-1 adventure. As you can see, I managed to pull it apart. It's the one that I decided to explore, so it was the one that was missing the most parts, and I already knew it had some issues. That's why I didn't really pay attention to the screws, at least. What can I say? Well, it's a lot of disassembly. So in order to get the mirror box out, actually it's the mirror box and shutter assembly, you pretty much have to take everything out. I will clean up a bit all of this mess, and then I will try to go through individual assemblies and talk a little bit about what I found, what I can use, what I can't use, and so on. All right. All this mess, so all this debris came from within the camera, and that makes me believe that in order to get a fully functional, fully CLA'd camera, I would have to strip it down completely, not just replacing that broken part. So that is going to be an adventure in its own. This bit is some sort of a light baffle that was supposed to be, I think, here. No, it was here, and somehow it got caught between the motor drive gear and the chassis of the camera, so it's trash. And all of this old light sealing is also trash. Okay, good enough for the moment. Okay, so what do we have? Well, this is, as I said, the mirror box and shutter assembly. This is the actual frame, so the chassis of the camera. Not much left on it. This bit, so this is the shaft that is broken on this one, and this is the part. Interestingly, this one seems plastic, while this one seems to be made out of metal. Yep, that's metal. But this one, yep, this one is plastic. So that means that sometime during production years they changed certain elements to probably cut down the costs, the production costs. Well, that sucks. And this one is 725173. This one is 747188, so they are quite close. That's interesting. While this one is 228639, so this is the oldest. I don't know, maybe this one is plastic as well, but it certainly scratches like metal. No, this is metal. Anyway, so now that we know that is plastic, what else? There are 4 shims on this part and 4 shims on that part. They must not be lost because they are the shims that guarantee the correct flange to film plane distance. All the light sealing is in really bad shape, and we have a strip here, a strip here, obviously the strip here by the mirror, another strip behind the mirror that is quite hard to access without removing the focusing screen. Also one bit of strip here, this is below the galvanometer, and this one is almost like dust, and what happens is that dust can get inside through this slot, so from beneath the light meter it gets inside between the focusing screen and the prism, and creates all this very fine dust on the prism. The result, you get dust inside the viewfinder, but you can't get to it because it's not on the mirror, it's not on the focusing screen, at least not on the accessible part, so you can't blow it away. Alright, that's a reason for me to fully strip it. Next, this is the gear that is right here. So it's the gear that turns this, the take-up spool. It has no direct contact with the take-up spool and this part of the chamber, and is actually part of the battery chamber. But I found it interesting that when arming the camera, the battery would spin inside. But it spins inside because the battery actually resides inside the take-up spool. That's a very interesting way of using this space, actually. And it is full of, I suppose it's battery corrosion. Probably, but it's dirty. This is the motor drive gear. So the motor drive would connect to this slot and wind the camera, and everything is super dirty and dusty, but it has a ball bearing. Okay, what else? I would still have to remove a couple of bits from the frame in order to actually have a full disassembly. So the gear of the film spindle, the sprocket spindle, that actually has 2 gears, one on top and one on the bottom. This is the disengage button, and it has a couple of springs and little cams. and this bit that I will for sure take off because I'll keep it as a spare. Also, normally when you are trying to open the back of the camera, you pull on the rewind lever, and usually if you let go it goes back straight away. Well, this one doesn't. It's very sluggish because this is full of dirt and I don't know, old grease or something. The light ceiling here, of course, it's totally trash. See the dust that was inside the camera. Alright, so that is the main body of the camera. This is the light meter. It's probably in working order. I think there is a way to check it. I mean, I don't think so, I know so. For sure there's a way to check it. You'd have to apply a certain voltage between these two wires, and the needle should deflect. I don't know what the voltage is. I don't have a variable power source, so I'll just consider it being okay. This bit is the tripod mount, and it has some cams on the underside that are actually closing a contact. I think this one, I don't remember exactly, but something around here. Prism cover, prism retainer, the eyepiece, all the flexi, so all the electronic part is there. This is the ASA variable resistor. Actually, it's not a resistor, it's just a tracer that varies the resistor. And the screws that I will keep. And now to the interesting part. So this is the first curtain main gear, and it has a set of 3 teeth that are really worn, 2 a bit less, 1 very very worn, and that is the actual area that should have gotten into contact with this gear. So in essence, when you wind the camera, winding it through this assembly would turn this gear, that of course turns the sprocket shaft, and of course you would turn this gear because the two are connected, and this one, the little gear, would turn this one, actually arming the first curtain and the second curtain through the meshing of these gears that I'm not really understanding every little bit of the mechanism yet. I might explore it more or not, I'll see. Also, something here would have to arm the mirror. So if this one goes in here, and this one goes in here, something here would have to pull on this, actually to push it that way, and that something has already been removed, and it's probably this. So it has a toothed gear that would actually turn both the first curtain gear and the sprocket gear. That means that by turning it from the bottom, you can advance the film and cock the shutter at the same time. And it has this this cam that so this has to turn counterclockwise. That is correct. This goes like this, and by turning it, I don't know if I can pull this off with everything disconnected. I probably can't, but anyhow, it's quite obvious. By turning this counterclockwise, this will, by increasing its radius, will push more and more and more on the mirror lever, the mirror actuating lever. And let me turn off the LED con. So in order to cock the shutter and the mirror, this gear, so the gear from the main from the first curtain, gets turned counterclockwise, and the manual says that if you are trying to cock it manually, you have to turn it counterclockwise until they lock somewhere in the middle of the frame. If it seems a bit on this side, but if I turn it around and raise the mirror, it's actually dead on in the middle. Okay, then you would have to arm the mirror, so push the lever down. All right, and then where are you? Jesus, here you are. And then turn it even more until both curtains are in a fully armed position. And the manual says that between the edges of the two curtains, when fully cocked, you should have a 0.1 to 0.3 millimeter gap. I did not measure it, but looking at it, it's correct. So this is one checkpoint. I don't even think, no, I have no chance of measuring it with this caliper. I should use the leaf gouges, but I'm too lazy to do that now. And if this gap is not within that interval, you can actually adjust it very, very easily by moving this little screw. So you can take it out from the middle hole and move it either down one or two holes or up one or two holes. And what happens is either these holes on the plastic shaft on this take-up spool or take-up roller are like this. So if you draw a line through the centers of the holes, you would get a slanted line. While the holes in the middle, in the middle shaft or the axes are straight. So in fact, one line is straight, one line is canted. If you move the screw up or down, you would rotate the outer shaft around the inner shaft. I don't know if it makes sense. I'm struggling to explain it into words, but it's super obvious, at least if you have it in front of you. So by moving the screw, you actually move the position of the second curtain. So you move the you increase or decrease the gap between the two the two edges. And as in any horizontally traveling shutter, the distance, the gap between the two curtains is the most important of all variables that dictate how the shutter behaves, as in actually doing the shutter times correctly. Okay, you can also change the timing of the shutter by adjusting the position of this gear, I think. I'm not really sure because there's a mesh of gears here that, not a mesh, a bunch of gears that mesh together and dictate when they can rotate freely from one another or when they have to move together, so independently or together. Okay, I somehow got the shutter stuck, and then 30 minutes later I managed to get it unstuck. It's interesting how easily things can get out of position. Anyhow, so what was I saying? Okay, this is the shutter in the cocked position, and there are two electromagnets. One is here, one is here. This one controls the mirror, and this one controls the second curtain. And this adjustment with the screw and the 5 holes is not for the second curtain, is for the first curtain. Alright, so if from this position I imitate the release of this magnet, the shutter and mirror should go like that. The shutter will do nothing. I mean, it will go from cocked to uncocked position, but without any slit, so it's like capping, unless there is power to the system and the electronics is in place. All right, what else? I'm not going to explain the mechanism because I'm not fully understanding it myself. At first I didn't know what these are. So there's a piston, this cam, and this assembly. So each curtain roller has some sort of a helicoid and two prongs that ride the helicoid grooves. And I think I got it now. I think it's the brake. So when the curtains travel from cocked to uncocked position, so when the exposure takes place, these two prongs will ride the grooves down. So the spiral goes like this, and it will ride. I'll try to make some slow motion videos, otherwise it's quite hard to explain, but the prongs will ride, they are kept stationary, the helicoid turns, and by turning the prong will move down, so it will ride the grooves from up to down, and at the bottom of the grooves there are a couple of stoppers, so one stopper here, one stopper here. When the prongs hit the stoppers, these two shafts spinning clockwise, the stoppers will push on the prongs. By pushing on the prongs, this will push the piston, and the piston will slow the motion. So it's actually a curtain brake. The mirror also has a piston, I suppose to make it less noisy and reduce vibration. Alright, what else? In order to remove the focusing screen, there are 3 screws, 1, 2, 3, and 3 more screws, the smaller ones, 1, 2, 3, but these 3 are actually the screws that adjust the position of the frame in respect to the body. So these 3, I wouldn't touch them, because otherwise the screen will get out of position and you will lose focus across the viewing screen, so across the focusing screen. Alright, and pretty much that's about it. There are a lot of shims, rectangular, not shims, but spacers. So rectangular spacers and a rectangular spring plate of some kind. It resembles this. So this is the mask with the numbers, the exposure numbers. It resembles this, but it's curved, so it keeps the screen under pressure. So the pressure from bottom to top. So it's kind of sandwiched between a couple of layers. Alright, so this is the mirror and shutter assembly. Yeah, quite funky. And the final bit for today is this. This is the film advance assembly. This is the exposure meter switch that is still attached. I can remove it, but there are a couple of wires that I would have to unsolder. And this is one I think quite common cause of malfunction to this camera. It has this little axle with 2 gears on each end. One gear rides the counter, the frame counter, so this vertical dial, and the other one, this is the other one, rides this helicoid type of gear. This one is attached to these gears that in turn are attached to other gears that are part of the advance and cocking mechanism. So in essence, each time you cock the shutter, this will turn, it will spin this axle that will turn the frame counter, and it will turn it by 1 turn. When you open the back door, there is this thing that it's spring loaded. I don't know how. I'm going to just put it back like this. Yeah, sort of like this. And this little cam, or whatever it is, should be riding in here, I think, or something like that. Bloody flathead screws. Oh god, I hate these screws. down it goes. Anyhow, it doesn't matter. The idea is that when you open the door, the back door, this will move outwards like this. Like this. And it will push this axle to the left of the camera, and it will disengage this little gear from this gear. So in fact it will reset the counter. When you close the door will push on the little latch and it will allow the gear to go back in position, because the gear also has this spring. Obviously it's not bolted down, so nothing really works as it is supposed to. Something like this. Okay, now the problem is that the gear on this end should not be able to get out of the shaft. It's a plastic gear and it's broken, so it pretty much detached itself from the shaft, and that means it was no longer having contact with this one. See, it's split in half. Now you could probably glue it somehow, but it will probably not last. So I guess it's one of those bits that need replacing. I'll have to check the other ones. I'm not really sure if they work or not. This is I think this is the bad one. Yeah, this is the bad one. So this one is the good one that I'll try to transform into a functional camera. So now it's at 1 and now it's at 2. So luckily this one is okay. This one, I don't know, it's at S, so it's at start, the back is closed, the camera is locked. So I have no idea if it works or not. Alright. It's quite difficult. I mean, I did read that article, I try to take it step by step to understand how it works, but it's quite complicated and quite dirty. The advanced part is probably pretty straightforward, a couple of gears turning each other, this little bit for the frame counter, and that's about it. This is the contact for the battery, all corroded. This is the trickier bit, but once this is out, it's quite alright. It's quite accessible for cleaning, so you can pretty much clean it decently. There is access to all the foam bits that should be replaced. That one behind the mirror is the least accessible, but if you take out this frame, so in order to take it out, 3 screws, 1, 2, 3, this one lifts, and then there are a couple of spacers, these two. Then there is the focusing screen that I will try not to mess up because I might need it. Then there is this frame that the focusing screen sits on, and then there is this springy rectangular frame. And then there is also this bit that won't come out unless I probably take this out. So if I take this one out, this one falls, because at the back it's resting on this little edge here, but at the front it has a wider lip that goes beneath the frame, and it's kept in position by this part, so these two lips. And it also had a little brass washer here that I kind of lost a couple of seconds ago. But it surely had one, because I saw it. Anyway, here it is. It doesn't matter. So this one was here. Okay, and now I have better access to that area, and I can have even better access if I take this one off. But I will not, because I don't have any actual reasons to do that. Also, if you need to put back another mirror, this is the correct moment to do so, because it's easily accessible from the front and from the top. Alright, and yeah, one last thing. There are two sets of blinds, I think. So this is one set on each side of the curtain, so up and down, and there is another set below the curtains. So the curtains ride through that sandwich of light shields, light baffles. That's why when you arm it, it makes that sound. All right. So this was the disassembly, as much of a disassembly as I can have for the time being. Look, another of those sinister light foams. And the next time I'll probably sort everything in a spare parts box, and I will have to start disassembling this one being the donor, so I can steal I need the axle from here, but I don't know if this one is working. I mean, it's if that gear is broken, it's visible, but if the gear is broken, then I need the axle to transplant on the other camera's assembly. So, oh, that would suck, because I would have to No, I would take just this bit. It would be easier because there are only two screws. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's an ongoing adventure. See you next time.